Welcome to the Bicycle Kick podcast, where we discuss money, power and politics in sport. I'm Lachlan and I'm a lawyer.
I'm Max, I'm a business person and former sports agent.
And I'm Jordan, just a sports fan with opinions.
Come here every week, like, subscribe and share our content. Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the big one, it's sponsorship. Now, sponsorship is one of the three main revenue strands that a club can get. It's either ticketing and merchandise, you've got broadcasting, and then you've got sponsorship. So there are so many, ways to go about this, Jordan. I say that let's probably start with just an easy one for people to understand, and that's just like naming rights on a stadium.
Yeah. Okay, you've got a lot of stadiums that host naming rights. If we've got frequent listeners that had listened to one of our previous pods, we went through this. And actually, this is one for Max, because Max wasn't there for us. There are 6 teams in the Premier League that have naming rights to their stadiums. Do you know which ones they are?
Okay, right. So the most bizarrely named Hill Dickinson.
Well done.
I can't forget that one.
No.
Yeah, the most recent one as well. It's great.
Yep.
Can I just ask, the Tottenham Hotspur one, is that available to be sponsored? Because it's just the Tottenham Hotspur.
They haven't sold the naming
they
rights.
Probably could sell
surely
they can.
They can sell
They
the
would
naming
suggest
rights.
they
they're
would.
sold, right?
Yeah. They're going to need to after spending all this money.
So I think that's available if it's not already.
Yeah.
This could be very slow.
You've got two really big ones.
Man City, Etihad.
Yeah.
You're
really hurting my soul here.
What? Arsenal's
and
not.
the Emirates.
Oh, yeah.
Emirates Stadium.
Yeah.
And then the other ones are a bit smaller.
It's not Selhurst Park, so it's probably because no one wants to sponsor it.
Who do you guys hate?
Yeah.
Brighton, the Amex.
The
Amex.
They all begin with B. Other two clubs begin with a B.
Down the coast.
Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Vitality Stadium. And then
but is that a stadium?
it's got like 12,000 people.
No, it's got like 6, isn't it?
Well, they had to change it, didn't they?
Yeah, they had to change it for Europe.
And the final one's in West London.
Is that West Ham's? No,
they're East London.
True.
Yeah.
Good point. Brentford then.
Yes.
Yeah, G-Tech. That was pretty impressive.
Right,
well done,
that
Max.
was actually.
Well,
yeah,
it wasn't. I think
good.
I got 2. Thanks for that.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Thanks for the build-up.
But yes, so essentially, usually clubs will sell off the naming rights to stadiums to make funding. Usually these are insurers or they're financial institutions, like for example Bayern Munich is the Allianz Arena, right?
Yep.
And you got, as you said, you got Arsenal and Emirates, so you got airlines, and you got Man City Etihad. They're usually quite big lucrative deals. Arsenal's, as I spoke about in the previous podcast, came as we were moving to the Emirates, and it was always been the Emirates.
Yep.
And it has been that since 2006 when we moved in. And then the Etihad as well. So the Etihad took over with their sponsorship, and the naming rights are massive for clubs, because it's just such a big section of sponsorship that can be sold. I think the biggest sections are the naming rights to a stadium, the front of kit sponsors, and the arm sponsors. Arm sponsors are actually quite massive.
I do actually remember trying to sell for Aston Villa. And I can't remember if it's the A38 or something else, but straight into Birmingham, you drive directly into Birmingham City Centre on the right-hand side, or wherever direction you're coming from. You have the Villa, their stadium, you have the external of it. I remember contacting Villa trying to sell the sponsorship, and they were like, you can't really do that. I'm like, but what happens if it's a big lot of money? And they were like, well, bring us the offer and we'll see what happens. But it wouldn't really have been good for internal. It's more like external. I'm not sure that was many Brummies that were ready to interpret whatever big brand came in there. But it's an option.
Well, with the Hill Dickinson one, with Everton, it's very interesting because it's reported to be around 10 million a year. It's an 800 million pound stadium. And we're now seeing an influx of different types of sponsors. Hill Dickinson is a law firm. And, they post a lot of revenue, I think over, 60 million a year in turnover. But it's just very interesting because in terms of naming rights, normally it's attached to your anchor brand, isn't it? So if you look at Etihad and Manchester City, that is a clear anchored partnership that has gone for years. It's very tied to, Abu Dhabi and who own them effectively through Sheikh Mansour. But the Etihad deal is reported to be around 21.9 million a year. And that, keeps going. As you say, with the Emirates, they're so intertwined.
We are so connected.
We're so connected.
I just think they're very good sponsorship deals, just to be honest with you.
They are.
Like, from a business perspective.
They are very good.
International brands, international exposure, travel the world.
Yeah, when you
go
travel,
and see an event. So I don't understand the Hill Dickinson one. To be
well,
honest,
Hill Dickinson are a Merseyside law firm. So it's almost like a community thing of like, we're not selling it out to a Middle Eastern airline or such as Emirates and Etihad. We're keeping it internal as a Merseyside law firm. We're branching out. It is a bit odd that a law firm has done this. I think it is the only law firm that's done it.
Yeah.
But I think that was a huge driver of it, was that it was a Merseyside firm.
So that's one layer of sponsorship. Another one is your kit supply deals. So United's deal with Adidas reports to be around $900 million in revenue over the duration of their contract. I think it's about 12 years, and then inevitably they'll renew it. And it's incredible. I mean, to me, Manchester United is Adidas. Like, growing up as a young fan, and like David Beckham obviously had a personal affiliation with Adidas. And
am I wrong in remember it being Umbro?
Yes, originally it was Umbro, yes, and they changed to Adidas.
Showing your age there.
Yes.
What's
Umbro?
I think it was Umbro.
Sorry, Umbro. I love you. Don't worry. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, wow. So that's my own. I'm with everyone else that has history beyond 20 years.
Yes. So they say that these kit supply deals take up normally about a quarter of like a club's commercial revenue, which I think is absolutely incredible. But when I think of recent kit supply deals that I found really interesting, for me, it's been Barcelona.
Yes.
Like, Max, being of the older generation.
Thanks again.
Sorry, Max. Have you?
We're just picking on the age.
Yeah, but this is unbelievable. I'm a youngster by some of these.
So Barcelona. So in 2022, they got into a huge partnership with Spotify, and this has been incredible. Not just because Barcelona have been financially mismanaged to the ground. They needed that. They need a lot of money. They've been selling off, what was it, that like naming rights in the hospitality suites. They do
need it.
Anything they can sell.
Anything they can sell, they've done it. But with the Spotify deal, it's reported to be around 280 million over 4 years. It covers everything. It covers your training kit. It's rebranded as a Spotify Camp Nou, I'm pretty sure as well. And what I love about this is, like, similar way that we were talking about Arsenal as well, it's very on brand with the youth now. So like for Olivia Rodrigo, they'll change the design of their top. For Drake, OVO, like, it's just really cool. I think a lot of the youth, they think like, okay, Barcelona's a club that's promoting youth investment. La Masia has always been incredible. Thinking, okay, well, how can we turn a sponsorship deal where we just need money, but actually let's be shrewd and really smart about it, and let's invest into an entity such as Spotify that actually aligns with our commercial and like morality and values.
Yeah, I think it also helps like that their face of their brand is Yamal.
Yeah,
and Yamal's always dancing. You saw him on the stage. Did you see him on the stage after the Spain celebration? He's always dancing. He's always like, that's his vibe, and he's so young, and he's the face of the club. So to have that fit with a perfect synergy, and like it's a great deal. Like, I think it's a great decision to go there, and it wasn't just the fact that they needed money. They chose correctly, like you said. They chose wisely as well.
And it's just been renewed for 460 million up until 2034, which is incredible, man.
It's a great deal. It's a great deal. And but I've worked with some of these businesses that these Spotify founders run, and they are working in that sport field, athletic field, etc. So that's even where the consequence of where their money is flowing. So to sponsor Barcelona makes so much sense for them, and they probably can politicize that hugely for their benefit. So it's a really great deal for Barcelona.
It's incredible. And, from our perspective, we just think, oh yeah, of course, it makes sense. Like, why wouldn't they do that? Spotify is a huge global brand. Of course, something like that works. Well, the issue is that a lot of people don't realize that when a sponsorship deal goes wrong, it goes really wrong.
And then you got a big architect of that in the UK that's happened to them multiple times.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jordan, talk to me about this. Anyone that springs to mind when you think of a bad sponsorship deal?
I'll go with one. I'll go with one club, but I got another one.
Okay.
But I would say Newcastle's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Sports Director Arena, whatever that move was, horrific. It got so
they changed it
much
very
backlash.
quickly.
Well, he owned it, Mike Ashley, didn't
Yes,
he?
he did.
But
Yes.
changing an iconic stadium such as St James's Park to the Sports Direct Arena is awful because it's also when you change the name of something that is so iconic to something completely different. So it's Spotify Nou Camp, right? It's not just a Spotify Arena because no one's going to call it Spotify Arena. It's still the Nou Camp. When you change something so iconic, you're not going to get the publicity that you actually want.
And entrenched in the community.
Yeah, it's not. And up in Newcastle is they bleed Newcastle. So to change something like that just doesn't work. But then also they tried it with a kit sponsor with Wonga. Now, okay, like Wonga is a payday loan company. Okay, like the deal made sense for them; they made money. But when you look at it commercially in terms of the fans, the city of Newcastle, the club, the city of Newcastle had one of the highest unemployment rates in the whole of the UK, and the club that they love is branded by a payday loan company, which is insane. It just feels almost predatory by the payday
They would
loan
encourage
company.
those people that are unemployed to, of course, follow
exactly. And
Just want to say something very quickly. I hadn't discussed it with you guys before. The highest amount of employees that I have in the UK are from Newcastle.
nice.
So big up to the Beehive in Big Market, by the way, everyone. That's my
Nice.
favourite place.
I went to uni there. Brilliant. Yeah.
Me too. I went to Durham, but it's like
Doesn't count.
well, actually,
Newcastle.
well, it was because I went to Stockton on Tees, so that was
I've got no affiliation to the North.
it's the northeast. We understand. Yeah.
I'm
We've gotta
south.
take
I'm
you up.
south through and through.
Honestly, northeast is the best.
It is
Yeah.
best. Yeah.
But
Anyway,
anyway,
carry
but
on,
anyway,
yes.
point being that I totally agree. First of all, it's one of the best clubs on the planet, Newcastle. One of the best clubs on the planet.
Football purism. Like,
Pure, yeah.
the goal- the
fans,
goal
Newcastle
you see.
is,
Oh,
but
they are
Newcastle is
extraordinary.
incredible. Yeah.
extraordinary,
I agree.
great people.
Yeah,
To
agreed.
the point, I don't think that they're. It's not just about how the Wonga affect the northeast. You are right saying on Premier League shirts at that particular time. I also think they were supporting Blackpool, if I can remember at the time. They were really heavily. Wonga was going for it, and that is quite an extraordinary way to go around payday loans. It's extraordinary that was allowed. When you think how bad things can get, I think it's one of the worst things I've seen.
Well,
ever in football.
they committed 1.5 million to Newcastle's academy at that time. The deal was 24 million. The issue was that there were some practicing Muslims who played for Newcastle, and there was a Sharia ban effectively against non-regulation payments. So that was clearly at odds with each other in terms of the morality of the players and the sponsorship. And I think that gets into the idea of, again, we were talking about like alignment. Like, how aligned does a sponsor and a club need to be? If you look at Emirates and Arsenal and the Etihad and Manchester City, if Manchester City lose their charges, Etihad aren't going anywhere.
No.
Really, they're not going anywhere. Jordan spoke earlier about the fact that Arsenal just renegotiated a higher terms with the Emirates, because again, this is a partnership that almost like goes further than just football. Really, it's just so intertwined. So in instances of this, maybe it is a case of, okay, should we just get some cash injection for a couple of years? Let's do it over 2 or 3 years, get the money in. Yeah, get a bit of backlash and then we're out, but we've still got the money. I don't know.
I think there are people that have jobs in these places, and they're like commercial directors, CCOs, etc. That are their number one responsibility is the front of shirt sponsor, sleeve sponsors, and stadium sponsors, and around the pitch sponsors. And if they can't get a big ticket against the KPIs that they're given, they might leave the club. So they might be able to really just push for these deals, even though they shouldn't. There also might be political reasons owners of clubs decide to want to encourage partners that they know into these positions, like Sports Director, their own. Do I think Mike Ashley is completely without the realms of potentially bringing in his own partnerships? I don't know if he had a relationship with Wonga, if that was at the time, but I remember being involved with Glasgow Rangers at the time where he was also involved with them. He's just a powerhouse. He's a very influential person, so that can happen with ownership.
I think also, like, it doesn't have to be bad because it's controversial. It can just be a bad business decision. Like West Ham had two sponsors that went bankrupt. Two
Made
shirt sponsors that
sponsorship.
went bankrupt. What?
And they had to redesign their kit.
They had to redesign the kit after them going bankrupt. And to do this twice in somewhat close succession as well is like, how what management is going on?
Well, how about Chelsea? They didn't have a sponsor
Just
for a year.
about to say that.
Well, yeah, like,
Yeah.
What, I do question, like, what's the point where you go, well, actually, let's just go without this year.
Yeah.
Just so expensive. Like, you can make so much money from it though. It's like you're literally really. But then again, I guess Chelsea did it because they were trying to find the best. Sponsor.
After the three, and stopping that. I think Chelsea is very smart. I think I think with Chelsea, I think they're waiting until they're a bit more successful right now to then properly capitalize on that. Can you imagine if they? Oh yeah, of course, more than that.
They can get to sixth.
Imagine if they won a title, or if they won that, and then they could go and be like, you're sponsoring the Premier League champions.
Just like what we did.
Bring up the money.
They are doing. Yeah. They look like they're better now as well. Chelsea.
They do. Jordan was saying he thinks they're going to win the league.
They as possibly winning the league.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
They got some good signings.
I hope none of my Chelsea friends hear me say that, but I have them possibly making the league.
Going back onto your point, Jordan, about, can they be a bad business decision, or is it, political? Let's talk about Visit Rwanda as well, because that is, about your own club.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I spoke briefly about it on the Arsenal pod bars. Again, just for sure. Basically, our Visit Rwanda was a big sleeve sponsor for Arsenal. On the face of it, it makes sense. It's a government-backed company. It's tourism. It links with Emirates. Like it seems like on paper, it seems like a great decision. I think they were paying us about 10 million a year for the arm sleeves, which is great. But we then get into the political controversies. So there's the controversy around Visit Rwanda is regarding the funding of the M23 militia and what's going on in the Congo. It's also LGBT rights concerns, it's human rights concerns. It's overall it's a controversial brand to be associated with. So Arsenal this year let the contract run out and have this year got a new sponsor who is also controversial in their own right. So if I'm going to stay with Arsenal's new shirt sleeve sponsor is Deel, which is an Israeli HR company. The company themselves aren't necessarily controversial. What's controversial is the potential viewpoint of the owner on the Middle East conflict and where they stand with that. And you've got a lot of Arsenal fans that are boycotting buying the new shirt. Or I've seen a lot on football Twitter about people buying replica shirts because they don't have the sponsorship on them. So, or they're just finding ways to take the sponsor off. And
the club won't be able to profit from that as well.
Exactly. So it's choosing sponsors that aren't as controversial. But going back to Visit Rwanda, the Congolese delegation actually lobbied Arsenal and a lot of other clubs that had the Visit Rwanda sponsorship to suspend their sponsorship and to cancel their contract, which Arsenal declined to even meet the Congolese delegation, but then let the contract run out. But then this year, Aston Villa has taken place. Aston Villa have now got their Visit Rwanda sponsorship, and there was reports coming out that sponsorship, which was announced a couple of days before the signing of Manzambi, could have actually ended the deal with Manzambi, with Manzambi's family being of Congolese descent. And I don't know how true those reports are, and how reliable those sources are, but it just goes to show how much players are looking at sponsorships now as well as fans.
That's very interesting. Yeah, and it goes back to, as I was saying, about the Muslims there at Newcastle. I think that there's so much in sponsorship. Like, all these clubs are deciding where's their money going to come from. And, if you look in the context of like Hill Dickinson, for example, that there was a huge naming rights battle about, what was previously Goodison Park with Usmanov, who previously owned Arsenal, didn't he, Jordan? And he was trying to get his company, USM. They were trying to get the Everton Stadium to be named the USM, arena or whatever, because of the sanctions relating to, the Russia invasion of Ukraine. Again, that kind of, said, okay, well, in terms of morality and political
that.
issues, we're not going to do that. So it's really interesting, because then at what point does an owner or someone with decisive influence say, okay, yeah, we're going to go ahead with that sponsorship, take the money, and
I don't know where you begin and end.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Like I said, like I understand the visit Rwanda. If there is clear evidence, etc., of like actually funding wars, that you can understand that could be a reason to stop the sponsorship. Then there's another example you've given of this HR business of an Israeli owner who potentially has a particular view. Then you'd think, well, then I'd have to investigate anyone. You'd have to have a very high bar of investigating anyone that sponsors at all about their political background, involvement. And where does that end? What happens if the son of an owner had a comment against one country, then another? You'd have to define, I mean it in the best way, you'd have to define like a good ethics, and it probably needs to be a league standard ethical code rather than the club defining one. I don't see how a club would define, and if a club decides, well, actually, I think that's unfair, but the guy was, or the owners, for somehow were aligned with one side of a war than another, they also shouldn't be in charge of deciding what should go on a shirt or not. So it should be a league standard.
Yeah.
If it passes the league standard, it probably should just go ahead with theirs, even though it's ethically, morally, even I think that'd be horrible to think of. I just don't see how we can rely on execs or commercial directors to define what is ethically right or wrong.
So Max, me and Jordan were talking about what's the best type of football owner. So is it, a billionaire that loves the club that's just injecting funds into it? Is it a private equity investment, right? So a lot of what you're saying kind of reminds me of a fan ownership type model, in which that effectively, as you say, if it's not the execs or, those at the top of the board that are deciding on ethics and all that kind of thing, then is it more that we just need to see A, greater transparency, or B, you go straight to the fans with the consultation? Like, how can we get to that point? Really?
I like the idea of fan ownership to an extent. Like we see it in Germany, although I have understood that there are ways that large owners can own something like 49.9% of a club and yet still have, in essence, ownership because...
Well, like
they somehow have
Red Bull,
a few other people
Leipzig,
which I think that's the reality, isn't it? Like it's unlikely in a real world that sorts everything out.
Yeah.
But it'd be good. Every club does. I don't know, because that doesn't really necessarily work. I'm not sure if it does work in the UK. Yeah,
it brings on an interesting point about self-regulation. And so, like, if we take betting and gambling, for example, so all Premier League clubs decided to remove front of shirt sponsors for gambling companies, and that will start this season. Now, Karen Brady said that the difference between gambling and non-gambling sponsors is around 40%. The markup that betting companies pay these clubs is astronomical. It's absolutely incredible. But again,
and she's done a great job. Really great job for that club.
Yes, clearly. Me and Jordan have a friend who's a West Ham fan, and he's very tetchy with me and Jordan coming onto the podcast and talking about West Ham.
Yeah, talk about West. Let's bring him on. Let's have a conversation.
Well,
we'll try that.
So, this issue is, these Premier League clubs. So as you say, it's like, well, who's regulating the ethics? Well, in this case, it's the Premier League clubs that are doing it themselves. But again, I query it. I find it very interesting because I don't know why these Premier League clubs, aside from the fact that, of course, like gambling addiction is awful.
Yeah.
But in the same way, like alcohol sponsors are not eradicated. People are allowed to utilize that. I imagine like the money going into it maybe isn't as high. So that's why you see them on the hoardings around the stadium rather than the front of shirt sponsors. Why do you think they've gotten rid of betting?
I think it's because it has so many, negative connotations on it at the moment. I think, especially with, so you mentioned alcohol sponsors. Yes, it's not banned. Yes, it's not, So yes, it's not banned, but it's almost been self-eradicated.
Yeah.
They've just, by choice, decided not to do that without banning it. and then it's just swapping one addiction for another to be on the front of the shirts. It's similar to the Wonga. Like I understand like why they would not want to do it. But the funny thing is, and the thing I know clearly about that is that they've just chosen to remove it from the front of shirts. They're still allowing training kits. They're still allowing boardings up. Yeah. They're still allowing any other investment into the youth, anything like that. It's all sponsorship is still fine, just as long as it's not on the front of the shirt. So they don't want to remove all of the money coming to them, but they're just happy to remove some that looks visually like it is to the people. So I think in that essence, I want to be optimistic and say it's because they're trying to safeguard the audience that is watching football.
Well, what's very interesting is despite the fact that betting companies no longer advertising on the front of shirt sponsors, a lot of these Premier League clubs are now partnering with hidden Asian betting operators that are actually acting on the UK betting market in order to still take a lot of the revenue that comes from betting sponsors, yet visually to not be attached to them. Now, this is happening quite a lot, and there are so many teams. Burnley with 96.com, Sunderland with W88, Wolves with Debet, Fulham with S-Botop, Crystal Palace with Net88, Villa's hidden partner is Nova88, which is the best online casino in Malaysia. Betting's actually illegal in Malaysia as well. So the reason I mention this is because, so these companies, is very, very clever what these people do, is that they effectively, these Asian companies, they white label their services through a UK subsidiary that's called TG Europe. They're based in the Isle of Man, right? And they have been tried to get certification on the UK Gambling Commission. That way they can monetize their product, take whatever, and then they can send that money on to the end user, which is the Asian company, which doesn't purport to, you know, be selling their services to a UK market or be gambling, and take the money that way. Max, what are your thoughts on that?
So are these Asian operators basically? They're Asian gambling operators.
Yes.
But they're targeting the UK, and the only reason they are allowed to do that is because we're saying they're not facing the UK.
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying.
People are saying.
But that really is an irrelevance of the,
these clubs,
structure.
These clubs don't acknowledge their commercial partnerships with these entities. So that's my first thought: is why they're not.
Well, you would think it'd be either a gambling operator ban or not a, because we live in a world where you can bet beyond the UK.
Yeah.
Otherwise, in a bizarre way, it's kind of like punishing just the UK operators that are probably the most highly regulated operators and structured in the world. So, why would you target them?
Well, TGP Europe, that UK subsidiary, has now been banned from the Gambling Commission. And fined 3.3 million for multiple breaches of anti-money laundering regulations. Now the UN have come out and said that a lot of these, you know, Asian companies are very linked to human trafficking, slavery, drug trafficking also. So it's very murky territory. So I just find it very interesting that these clubs, on the face of it, the perception is, okay, well, they're exiting the betting markets. And I think we're going to see...
I think, haven't they all had to? Like, I think I saw Palace has got Temporal, whoever they are. I don't know who that is. But haven't they all now had to take a new... the Asian bookmakers still allowed to be on front shirts?
Well, this is the thing, is that they're being investigated at the moment.
Right, so most clubs are moving away, but they haven't been asked to do it.
Exactly.
Right,
yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and again, I said to Jordan quite a lot earlier about this court of public opinion and how many times where a club's forced into making decisions they don't really want to make, but they're thinking, okay, we know where the tide is turning. I think the Hill Dickinson, naming rights of the stadium is a huge thing for English football. I don't think we've ever seen the idea of a law firm, a completely different industry, sponsoring a football team. So now I think we're going to be getting into fintech, into crypto as well. There are some really interesting partnerships here.
Yeah, you got Man City and Revolut.
Yeah,
so Haaland's bank.
Yeah.
Seen that. That's very interesting.
As you say, Max, Crystal Palace replacing an Asian betting sponsor with AI infrastructure firm Temporal. So exactly what you said. Brentford expanding Indeed partnership as well. Bournemouth extending Vitality now onto the front of their shirt, plus the naming rights. But it's interesting because sports betting advertising is banned in Spain as well. However, this has not stopped Real Madrid and Atletico turning to hidden partnerships with Asian-facing betting operators. So Atletico is with Leyu and K8. A lot of 8s in these names as well. I don't know why. Real Madrid with
is it a lucky number?
With Cayenne.
Chinese lucky numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. And Real Madrid with Cayenne. And, English fans of Sunderland or Nottingham Forest don't realise that their team's, related to 8xBet, which again is another Asian hidden operator. So the infiltration into football is pretty crazy. No, but all of this is self-regulated. Like I say that they're making the decision to move away. And that's why I think now we're seeing like in sponsorships, as we've been talking about with the Visit Rwanda, with Wonga, it does come back to this idea of, okay, what type of club do you want to be?
I think it's a really good point to be talking about what sponsorships you want to do with define yourselves. That does relate to the ownership and the kind of owners and the how you want to position yourself. Also, it's not very helped by some of the rules, structures, and then the big clubs dominate some of the smaller clubs because they don't have the amount of money coming into their clubs. Aston Villa is a fantastic example, for example, of that. They have to they feel that they're pressurized to take some sponsorship, and maybe they don't want to because just to compete from a revenue perspective. Yeah. So maybe it all comes back to the fact that, particularly with England, and UEFA, maybe we have to look at rules. If you actually think about actual fairness and creating an environment where people aren't having to do deals that they shouldn't feel they have to, then you have to create an environment where everyone is treated fairly, which is therefore not that you're restricted to do business because of a certain amount of revenue you bring in the door. Otherwise, I actually think you're encouraging more bad behavior. And then you're going to go after those very people that you'll go, well, that's very naughty of that club. Oh, look at Arsenal and Manchester City and how amazing they are. They've done an incredible job. But look at Aston Villa and that mid-table club. They've taken that on the arm. It's like, well, don't create rules that they have to follow that. They can't even compete on the football. All they want to do is compete on the football pitch. So don't restrict their ability to fight on the football pitch, and then maybe they would make better decisions. And to the other point on betting, you are very true about saying, like, who is actually deciding whether Burger King is better or EA Sports is better for my 8-year-old than somebody in terms of developing addictive person eating in the wrong way, healthfully. Who is the ethical decider of?
Because you can argue most things being bad. I mean, EA Sports, like, they offer paid incentives inside of games, which is almost gambling.
There's a whole thing about that and a whole nother level.
And something we can discuss about that. And it's you sit there and wonder, it's like, well, who's got the best sponsorship? Is it Vitality because it's health? Is it health insurance?
Even crypto, right? The FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority of the UK, have written to all these clubs being like, be very careful which crypto partners you have because they need to be regulated. They need to be ensuring that they're giving the correct advice. So in reality, I don't think there is a market that any club could get into, which isn't murky to some extent. Even, a law firm, Hill Dickinson is, and it has an incredible reputation and prestige. What if one of their senior partners is struck off? What if they're sued for negligence for a certain amount of money?
What is the ethical bar?
Exactly.
Who's defining that? It can't be club by club defining what is the best. And I do agree to a point that you want to have a certain brand for your club, but you shouldn't be held to a different extreme by the public.
But I also think these clubs go based off of market pressure and like market trends as well. So like if these clubs think, okay, what's new, like what's cool to be a part of? Okay, I think Barcelona is a perfect encapsulation of that. Like with Spotify was great. I genuinely think that's probably one of the best partnerships now because it's novel and it's right on topic with people that watch football. I find it interesting as well is that the championship clubs are still having betting sponsors as well. Like if you look at Sheffield Wednesday, obviously they've just gone into administration and they've obviously been relegated. But actually it was their betting sponsor that basically did its best to try and keep them up. Like it was the money that was coming from that, which almost saved them, really. And this goes to show us that like, well, yes, of course, inevitably you can find weaknesses in any sponsorship, really. But I think it comes down to that overall perception of the club. Yes, they have this sponsor who, some things have happened, but what does that club stand for? Who are the players there? Also, what we haven't spoken about is the fact that players can have their own individual sponsorship deals as well.
Yeah.
So like, how then, if you have a star, like Kylian Mbappe, who's attached to Nike, for example, say in a random world, he joined Manchester United with Adidas. He could do exactly that. He could do both. And yet, what if Nike is brought into disrepute? What if Adidas is brought into disrepute and they're two separate entities? It's so difficult to navigate. I just don't know at what point. I think that these players also, when these players sign for these clubs, that's going to be a part of their contracts, their employment contracts when they come. Is that, okay, well, you have to do this level of, adverts for this, the people that sponsor us. You have to do this many media days with YouTube and all that kind of thing. It plays such a part. So that's why I think Chelsea, for example, why aren't they getting a front of shirt sponsor? Because if they're doing all these 10-year deals and they have these sponsors that maybe they want to go into a year or like 2 years, it's just too risky to commit yourself, So
yeah, I wonder if the future is just really tightening up the clause, like the contracts between the commercial sponsor and the clubs to, really like put a heavy emphasis on morality and public opinion, in that sense of being able to exit early out of contracts, because probably part of the reason why Arsenal didn't want to have a conversation about the Rwanda deal is they probably couldn't do anything about it until it was done. I mean, they could have announced they were going to leave it earlier, but they're in a contract. They probably couldn't announce they're going to do anything.
Probably.
So maybe it's the trend now should be looking at clubs really tightening that up. And again, obviously, we're not privy to any of those contracts, and we don't know. They might have already started doing that, and I might be behind the ball. But I think that might be where we go now, because at the moment, you can find pretty much a moral issue on somewhere with any company you look at as a sponsor.
Yeah. I think we will get into a world where I personally feel like betting will come back and infiltrate, front shirt sponsors again. I think it will be I think it will be cyclical, to be honest. I think that £50 billion was generated for betting companies from the World Cup. I think that's money that's never going to stop pouring into it. And I think after 5 to 10 years, if these clubs are running out of sponsors or, people to give them money, and especially with these new pressures that come with the UEFA score cost ratio rules and new football regulator as well, maybe this was in anticipation of a regulator coming in, thinking how can we be fair? How can we, be transparent and ensure everyone's on the same page? I don't know how it's going to go, to be honest.
Just so I'm clarifying, like the Wonga scenario, a loan company's not allowed anymore on the front.
They were allowed. There's no
so again, payday loans is okay, but betting's not. Is that what we're saying?
Well, betting, as well as I say, betting is allowed. They've just decided.
Okay, but UK betting, no.
Well, it's up to them. It's up to the Premier League.
The Premier League have decided.
They've decided amongst themselves, no. But in reality, tomorrow they can vote to bring it back.
Yeah,
if they want
can say payday loans still allowed.
Yes.
Yeah. Unless it's banned, it's allowed.
But the Premier League haven't said no to it.
No.
As far as I'm aware, it's just UK betting at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think the reason
that is a strange scenario. It's only that, right?
It's selective.
Yeah.
Just one vice. Because the UK only has one vice.
Well, the problem is like everything's a vice, right? So you would have to get rid of literally everything.
Yeah. Surely there are rules against smoking. They don't have cigarettes on shirts.
I would imagine.
It's got to be a little list.
Yes.
Yeah.
I suppose.
I mean, the list could be a mile long by the end of the year, to be honest. Depending on how global politics changes as well. We could have FCA approval on all cryptocurrency platforms, and suddenly crypto is the big one for next year. It just depends on what happens.
Yeah,
and then it'll be who's the first to get the biggest crypto market.
Yeah. Well, everyone, as you can see, Bicycle Kick will be a sponsor soon.
We're the only ones safe enough to be able to sponsor something.
Yeah, sorry, we're not regulated. I can't trust what Max will say next. But
£5 sponsorship. Anyone wants a front?
Best believe we will look at it very clearly and make a strong contract drafted up.
Yes, exactly, which I can do for you. Yes. So thank you very much for joining us again, and we shall see you next time.